A brief introduction. So my name's Al Turner. I'm Managing Director of PR and Marketing, but in this room I'm the creator of the IBTM World Trends Report, which is out now. Spot the QR code in your apps and have a look at it. But also I've been working hard on this and bringing the content together, this Accelerate stage. I wanted to introduce Jack by saying just a few words. First of all, we spoke this morning about the trends that are defining what this industry needs to be. And we sort of talked about a couple of things. The first one was the sort of businesses that will be driving us forward and creating a new world for us, and those that were embracing it. And I talked about frontiers and how there were some companies running into frontiers. And I really believe that Hopin are one of those companies. We're really, really excited to have them saying some stuff to us today. But the other thing that we talked about was this idea of global and local. I understand they're all part of a global community, but also that local individual communities have a big part to play in whatever future looks like. So I'm delighted that we get this lovely hybrid, this mix again that we keep on talking, this convergence between a business with lots to say, but also a lot to say about trends and what they look like. So without further ado, I'll talk no more, but this is the next chapter in us telling this story in Accelerate stage throughout this week. So I hope you enjoy the company of Jack over the next half an hour.
Thank you, sir. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes? Amazing. Good afternoon. Buenos dias, bon tarda, and that is the end of me trying to butcher anybody else's language. I'm going to speak in English now. I'm really excited to be here with you this afternoon to talk about the closeness deficit and how we believe creating shared experiences can address that. So by way of intro, let me make sure that this is working. Yes, by way of intro, I'm Jack, and I lead sales for Hopin in EMEA and APAC. And I think it would be remiss of me not to just very quickly take a moment to thank everybody for making this week happen, particularly in the world that we're currently living in today. So first and foremost, I just want to thank our internal team, particularly Nergis, who's here in the crowd. I also want to thank the entire IBTM team, and then also all of you for making the effort to be here today. So just a big round of applause for everybody for making this happen. It's not easy, so thank you all very much. Are we working? Yes, perfect. So who and what is Hopin? We were founded in 2019. And we've quickly become the most innovative event platform in the world. We are enabling millions of people and, most importantly, hundreds and thousands of companies to engage with their audiences, both virtually and in person. And we're very lucky that we are supported and trusted by some of the most renowned companies in the world, from Apple to the United Nations, Unilever, Peloton, and WSJ. This is unusual. I'm not used to speaking on stage. I've gotten out of the habit of doing it, so bear with me for a moment while I get my bearings. We exist to make the world feel closer. Our mission is to make the world feel closer. And really, to Al's point earlier on, that's the trend that we're trying to address. We feel that connectivity has increased over time, but closeness has not. And we believe that we are facing a closeness deficit. We aim, obviously, to address that. And so what does that mean? Well, let me ask you all a question. By a show of hands, how many of you woke up first thing this morning and reached for your phone? The first thing that you did, right? And what did you do? You looked at Twitter, you looked at Instagram, you opened WhatsApp. Am I right? Yes? Fair enough, right? So we're now living in a world where we have never been more connected. We have access to more people, to more information, and we have access to having more conversations than we ever did before. Despite that, though, with the endless access to all of that, we are more isolated, more lonely, and looking for more meaningful conversations than we have ever had done before, right? And so we believe that this is as a result of everything that is going on in the world, and it has been propagated as a result of everything that is going on in the world. So, suffice to say, connection has failed us. it has become somewhat of a commodity. We feel connected to our online networks, but not really close to anybody, right? So let's differentiate what closeness is relative to connection. First and foremost, it means quality over quantity. It means engaging in real community and creating immersive and energizing interactions. We need to create experiences that do more than offer connection alone. We must enable and nurture closeness. And why should we care, right? Why care about closeness? Well, because closeness is now actually a business critical issue. One that all of us actually need to own. And we are uniquely positioned to address that, all of us here today, particularly in this industry. In fact, the Business Roundtable, which is a not-for-profit collection of some of the most world-renowned CEOs in the world, found that shareholders are what determine our binary corporate success, right? It's very easy for us to associate success as a corporate organization through share performance, through revenue, and all of that good stuff. But without taking care of our customers, our communities, and most importantly, our employees, we cannot take care of our shareholders. So in short, driving business growth at the cost of creating intimacy with our customers, communities, and employees is no longer an accepted business practice. It's actually the future. It is what we must do. And don't just take my word for it, right? There's actually data to support this. The data suggests, if this thing works for me, our customers more than ever are demanding closeness. So it's actually fueling a massive rise of the customer success industry. Anybody in the room in customer success? Yes? Amazing. Perfect. So you can understand, right, for the first time ever, or at least for the last number of years, our B2B customers are expecting a B2C experience, right? They expect us to hold their hand. They expect a white glove service. Everyone does, right? And that's what I expect when I engage in a B2C manner, but not always in a B2B manner. But that expectation and that requirement from our customers is driving an increase in this industry. And so much so that it's forecasted for this industry to double in the next 4 years, from a $7.5 billion business industry to a $15 billion industry. And how does this trend affect the closeness deficit? As I mentioned, customers are changing. They're expecting us to take care of them more and more. And the current model for serving customers is quickly becoming outdated. Separate to that, employees around the world and across industries are feeling tired. They're feeling burnt out. And they're reevaluating priorities. By a very quick show of hands again, has anybody heard of the concept of the Great Reshuffle? Yeah, handful of people. So the Great Reshuffle is this idea that employees, for the first time ever, have the power. For the first time ever, employees are saying to their employers, you know what? If I don't feel that close to you, if I don't feel like I'm having an impact anymore, I don't know if I want to work here, right? The COVID has made us reassess what's important to us. And so if you are not engaging with your employees with empathy, and if you're increasing digital surveillance, which lots of companies are now doing, and giving lack of empowerment, you're going to create a further gap. And actually, Microsoft did a study. Anybody from Microsoft here? No. Microsoft did a study of over 30,000 employees, and they found in that study that 41% of all employees are reconsidering whether or not they want to work at their company. So think about that for a second. Nearly half of your staff are reconsidering whether or not they want to work for you, right? So we must care about the closeness deficit. People feel not close, and as a result, they are rethinking all of their priorities. And finally, communities across the world and across industries are weighing up where to turn for accurate data, right? and who to trust, right? That has never been more relevant than in the world that we live in today, right? We're all familiar with everything that has gone on recently in political circles. And whilst industry still leads from a trust standpoint versus government or media, we see a concerning disconnect, actually a drop of 9% in trust for technology, and particularly over the last decade. This is the biggest decline of the industries surveyed ever. The last time, at the same time, 86% of people are looking for CEOs to come in and lead on societal issues. So how does that impact our closeness deficit? Well, ultimately, the wider community doesn't believe that we are there for them anymore, right? The lack of closeness means that they don't feel like we care about their needs. And so if 10 minutes ago you didn't believe that we needed to focus on the closeness deficit, hopefully in the last few minutes now you understand why you should. So what? So, if solving for connection and communication is not enough, how do we address it, right? So if we know that we have increased connection, we know that we have increased communication through everything, all of the technology that exists today, what do we need to do? Well, we believe that we can help solve the closeness deficit by bringing people together through shared experiences, right? Immersive, inclusive experiences that deliver what being functionally collected alone simply cannot. Meaningful conversations, interactivity, energy, and creativity. Lots of buzzwords. What does that mean? Let me start by sharing a couple of interesting slides. So, they're the moments where you feel part of something before, during, and after. That's what a shared experience is, right? A shared experience does not mean that you need to be physically there. So, today, we are physically here, right? And there has been that moment leading up where we are excited to come here. I was flying with my colleague this morning. We were talking about how unusual it is to be in an airport, and God, will the restrictions change tomorrow, and will we be able to get home without having to do a PCR test, all of those things. But we feel part of something. And today, all of us together feel part of something. We feel like we're in this together. We're trying to solve these problems together. And afterwards, we'll connect with each other, and hopefully we'll do some business. And for those of you that are interested in coming to a happy hour tomorrow, we're having a happy hour. I'll talk more about that later on. But this is ultimately what a shared experience is. This is not an event, and it's a shared experience. And the same is true for sport. I'm sure if there are any, given that we're in Barcelona, there may be some Barcelona fans in the audience. Is there any Barcelona fans in the audience? No? Okay. This is a true international audience. There we go. Okay. Well, thank you for putting your hand up. I'm a Leeds United fan for my sins. So hopefully you can understand that that is a very difficult challenge as a fan. But I feel a part of the community of Leeds. When Leeds are playing on the weekend, I'm texting my dad, who's also a Leeds fan, and that's why I'm a Leeds fan, it's his fault. I'm texting, I'm engaging with him, we're talking about the game ahead of time. During the game, we're talking about it. I'm texting with my friends who are Leeds fans on WhatsApp, and post the game. And it lasts for hours, if not days, right? And separate to that, Ted Lasso. I don't know if there's any Ted Lasso fans in the audience. I've recently just started watching it. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's great. I actually started watching it when I got ill a couple of weeks ago. It was amazing. But there's a couple of my team members in the audience here. When something like that, like Ted Lasso or others, we end up spending minutes, hours in our next meeting the next day talking about the story, about everything that goes with it. And so shared experiences are about doing exactly that. It's about giving us these moments before, during, and after the event. And so this is particularly important to us because Hopin was created by Johnny Beauforhat, who is our founder, and it was created pre-COVID, right? Lots of people in the audience probably think, oh, COVID is a COVID baby. Actually, Hopin has been around pre-COVID, and the reason we created Hopin was because Johnny had been suffering from an autoimmune disease where he was stuck in his room, in his apartment, for 2 years. And he was missing that closeness, not connectivity. There was lots of opportunities for him to engage in webinars and many other events, but he was missing that closeness, that ability to meet people, to feel like he was part of something, particularly in a business setting. And so we created that, and we subsequently have built a business, not just offering virtual or hybrid solutions, but on unlocking immersive shared experiences. So, how can we help you do that? We've created 4 principles for how we believe that you can create shared experiences. And bear in mind, we're a relatively young company, so these may evolve over time. But we do sit on an enormous amount of data. As you saw from the slides earlier on, we work with hundreds and thousands of customers. And we're able to analyze a lot of the data from how they have been successful. And unfortunately, this section of the talk, I was meant to be joined by a gentleman called Shane Mann from Man-Made, and he couldn't travel because he's based in South Africa, and we all know what's going on over there at the moment. But I was hoping to give you some kind of real-life examples. But ultimately, what I want to do is just double-click on each one of these very quickly and talk to you about how you could potentially think about including these in your strategy. So first and foremost, it's about creating experiences, not events. We've talked about that already a little bit, and we'll expand on that in a moment. It's about expanding your reach to a global audience. It's about extending your community beyond hero moments, and I'll talk about what a hero moment is in a moment. And then embracing employees as the core to your community. So let's dive into each of them. So creating experiences, not events. When creating experiences, it's important to remember the 3 I's. First, intuitive. We believe that your experience needs to be simple and thoughtful and is centered around the user. We've all been to those experiences, events, whatever you want to call it, where it's convoluted, it's difficult to figure out, whether that's virtual or in person, right? And you get turned off by the idea of it. And so it's about making it as easy as possible for your attendees. So something to be really considering as you think about your hybrid strategy. It's interactive, moving beyond passive attendance or content consumption, right? How many of us have been on those webinars, talks, where you're just listening to somebody and there is absolutely no engagement? And we want to move to this energizing interaction, from networking to audience participation. And I'm conscious that sounds hilarious because I'm just talking to you without interaction, but hopefully we'll have a moment to have some interaction in a minute. But ultimately, it's about creating that opportunity. So from networking to audience participation. And it isn't about participating in a viewing party. It's about being part of the conversation. It's about feeling like you can have a voice in these conversations. It's about feeling like you can influence the brands that you love and their strategy. And then finally, it's about having immersive experiences. So true multi-sensory experiences, curating the visual, audio, and physical to enhance the moment. So for instance, broadcasting a live band during breaks. It's about sending physical things if somebody is going to be virtual. That's something I was very fortunate in my previous company to be part of our public offering. And the company did an amazing job of whilst we were celebrating that virtually, because it was in the middle of COVID, in a previous life we would have all gotten together and celebrated together. We were sent lots of fun things, and there was lots of creative ways to get people to feel together. And then finally, it's about treating content like a show, right? It needs to be much bigger than just a webinar or something where you're just presenting a content. It needs to be considered as a show. Secondly, it's about expanding your reach to engage a global audience. And it doesn't just mean expanding your reach and now all of a sudden you can access all of these people. Now more than ever, we need to focus on inclusivity. when creating your event, you need to build for not just in-person, but also, and I was having this conversation with somebody recently, just today, you need to think about virtual too, aka hybrid. The reality is that the world we're living in it's an unusual one, and it's probably not going away for quite some time. So we have tons and tons of data and learnings from the past 18 months, and what we've been able to see is that companies that are leading the way and outpacing others, for instance, The Atlantic, they're a huge publication for those of you that are not familiar in the US. They're putting inclusivity at the forefront of their strategy, right? They have been able to 10x their attendance, but most importantly, they've dramatically extended their reach. Almost by half of their events now are multi-market, and that is because they think about their hybrid strategy as if it was their in-person strategy. They are not just sharing something, they are thinking about both their virtual and their on-site as one collective audience, and they're planning for that. Meaning that obviously they no longer cater for just one market at a time, they cater for many. Extend your community beyond hero moments. So this is a hero moment. Today, right now, as we speak, this is a hero moment. This is the moment that everybody has been gearing up for. This is the moment where you consume this information and you connect with people, but after that, then it's over, right? And before Hopin, marketers, I'm sure there are lots of marketers in the room, we've spent an outrageous amount of time trying to repurpose content from events to share on YouTube, to landing pages, what have you. And now through Hopin, we recommend using Hopin or any other platform that allows you to retain all of that content in a single place and allow you to engage with your members 365 days a year. So no longer it's no longer about this one big off event. It's about consistently engaging, repurposing that content, having that content in a single place, and most importantly, being able to track that activity and be able to prove ROI over time. And finally, the closeness deficit is most destructive when it's felt within an organization, right? We use our systems and tools. We live what we sell. To help overcome that. So I think what's really cool is that once a week, every Friday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we run an all hands using Hopin. And it's different to an all hands, any other all hands that I've been in any other company. And I've worked at US international companies my whole life, where you would log in virtually and there would be an on-site component and so on as well. Hopin allows us to drive that engagement. And most importantly, it's thought of like a show. So I remember when I heard that we had an all hands once a week, I was like, whoa, an all hands once a week, that's a lot. That feels like too much. And like, what do we even talk about? But actually, I've been so blown away by how it drives that engagement and increases our culture. And culture is by design. And luckily, we have one of the highest employee pulse surveys in all of technology. And it's as a result of these very thoughtful things. And we genuinely believe that if you invest in your culture and your people like this, and your community is both internal and external, then you will outpace the competition. So in summary, the 4 learnings are to create experiences, not events. I'm conscious that what I am not doing today is giving you a demo of Hopin. We have a stand right over there. If you do want to learn more about how Hopin can help you address these, then please feel free to come along. But really what I want to leave you with is these 4 kind of learnings and food for thought more than anything else as to how to incorporate these learnings into your strategy as you go forward. We are operationalizing these with Hopin, and we truly believe that the way to address this closeness deficit is to operationalize each one of these 4 learnings. We believe that if you do that, you will address the closeness deficit and you will drive business growth. It will be purposeful and sustainable. We believe that it will fuel loyalty and admiration that leads to loyalty beyond reason. We believe that we will be able to help you create a competitive moat which allows deeper emotional relationships with your customers and users and employees, as we've mentioned. And then finally, empowered teammates. providing purpose and deep sense of personal fulfillment, which will allow you to retain talent, knowing that talent is potentially looking at other options more now than ever before. We're excited to be here with you on this journey, building better together. And that's me. If you want to come visit us, please feel free to do so. As I mentioned, our booth is over here, and we are having a happy hour tomorrow from 6:30 to 9:30 at the One Barcelona on the rooftop. So please feel free to join us for some drinks. And yeah, that's it from me. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here, and thank you for listening to me waffle for 25 minutes. Appreciate it. Happy to take any questions if there are questions. There's a question here, I think.
What's your philosophy on the shared experience between the virtual attendee and the live attendee in terms of serendipity? So I'm here, how can I bump into a virtual attendee?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that we get asked quite a lot. So we've been very thoughtful about that, given that our founder was looking to create that opportunity of driving closeness. Nothing can replace this, right? Nothing can replace the opportunity. What's your name, by the way? Sorry, James. Very nice to meet you. I'm Jack. So nothing can replace this, right? But what we are trying to do is use technology to drive that. So we have created a networking function on the platform that will match you with people, and also we allow for opportunities to engage with people in a group setting, in a one-to-one setting. So for instance, if you're at a talk or a session with somebody and you see there are people at that session that you'd like to engage with, you can set up meetings, you can set up one-to-one conversations. So we're trying to be as thoughtful about how to do that right now. But as I mentioned, it's only early days. So serendipity is difficult to get right, but we are getting somewhat close to it, I would say. I hope that answers your question. Great.
Hi, I actually love Hopin. We've used it a few times in our NGO.
Oh, that's
because
great.
we work with primary immunodeficient patients around the world.
With who?
Primary immunodeficient patients around the world.
Oh, wow.
So we completely understand, and it's brought that in. The only thing is we deal with Africa, China, and in areas that data is extremely expensive for them to be online. And I know this is a really strange question to ask, but have you ever looked into ways of bringing this community to other parts of the world like that? Because it's a great product, but how do you get around that?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. It's the first time I've ever been asked that question, so I would say we probably have not looked into it. But here's the thing: we are trying to drive an inclusive experience, right? So we are passionate about giving access to people from all over the world to be able to engage in this. We're trying to make the world feel closer. So whilst we have not thought about it, is definitely something worth considering. And I would actually love to talk to you about how we may be able to do that. I know there's some really cool stuff happening with drones, being able to provide internet, particularly in the African continent at the moment. So perhaps we can tap into that. But unfortunately, I don't have a direct answer for your question right now. But definitely some thought-provoking ideas for sure. And my timer has gone red, so I believe I'm about to get pulled off the stage. If there's no other questions, then I'm happy to give everybody back some time. Thank you all very much, and if you're interested in learning about Hopin, please come by the stand. Cheers.